You're listening to the Bearded Theologians podcast hosted by Matt Franks and Zach Bechtold. We hope you enjoy this week's show, and you can find out more about us by going online at beardedtheologians.com, where you can pick up a few t-shirts, listen to a few old episodes, and find ways that you can connect with us. Thank you for listening. You're listening to the Bearded Theologians podcast hosted by Matt Franks
and Zach Bechtold.
So this week, we're going to talk about the end of the liturgical season, known as Reign of Christ Sunday or Christ the King Sunday, depending on where you land. I know churches do it differently. And so, Zach, let's dive into that. Like when you think of this Sunday, the Reign of Christ or Christ the King, what comes to mind for you?
Yeah, one thing I'm going to ask you a question before I divulge into that. Maybe for our listeners who aren't familiar with liturgical or liturgy, unpack that for them real quick. Why do we have a liturgical year? What does that mean?
It's because it's always what we've always done.
It is, but what does it mean? Like, what does liturgical mean? Like, it's a church word.
Yeah, it's definitely it's a heavy church word.
It's like narthex. Everybody has one. Nobody knows what it is, right?
Or where it's at.
Where it's at. Right.
I mean, is your narthex north? Because mine isn't. Mine points east.
Mine points west. Or south. So yeah, no, it's one of those churchy words that I think we use a lot, both as clergy and as lay people, but I don't know that we always know what it means.
I really wish you would have prepped me for that question so I could have been prepared, but
nope, this is the fun thing of a podcast.
I will fly by the seat of my pants on this. When I always talk about the liturgical year, I always try to emphasize that one of the healthy things of the liturgical year is that if you follow the liturgical seasons, which begin the first Sunday of Advent and last all the way until Christ the King Sunday. I use Christ the King Sunday. I don't like Reign of Christ Sunday. I just don't like the word reign. That doesn't sit well with me. It's a whole other podcast for a whole other day. But the liturgical year goes from Advent to Christ the King Sunday. And in that season, we have Advent, which is the season of preparation leading into Christmas. And we have Christmas, which is the birth of Christ, our Lord and Savior. And then we have the season of Christmas, which is usually 1 or 2 Sundays. We get 2 this year. And then we have the baptism of the Lord. And then we have a couple weeks where we have the season of Epiphany. And then we have Lent. And then we have Easter season. And then we have Pentecost, and then we have a really long, boring season of the season after Pentecost leading up into Christ the King Sunday. In that, there are certain colors that associate with each one. During Advent, I use blue because I like blue uses a symbol of hope. And I like the distinction because in some churches you'll have it where it'll be purple and then they go to in Lent they're in purple. And I was like, I like the distinction. I like having 2 separate ones. So you have blue, and then white, and then white usually signifies you have your high, like Christ the King Sundays, and
Easter's white. Christmas is typically white.
Some churches actually will, for Holy Communion Sunday, use white for Holy Communion.
Yeah.
Pentecost is red. Ordinary time or the season of Pentecost is green. We wear green a lot. And then black is for Ash Wednesday, and then purple is for Lent. I think I got all the colors.
And you'll see, if you're in Matt and I's churches, you'll see it in our shoes, especially. Yes. If you're in a more formal setting, you'll see it in the other clergy wear. The other vestments, our stoles and things like that will match the colors of the season.
I wear a stole, so my stole typically matches my shoes. We're slowly getting back to getting new paraments, and so those we'll change those out with the season. I'd only had one set that I really liked that I left it up there, and so we're slowly getting more paraments. I have someone helping me make paraments as we speak. So, but the season is, if you follow the liturgical season for 3 years, you will have gone through the majority of the Bible. The liturgical calendar has I call it every week has 4 readings. You have your Old Testament reading, you have your Psalm, you have your Gospel reading, and you have an epistle. And that varies. There's different things for different seasons. And But if you go through the liturgical calendar in 3 years, you will, if you will read the bulk of the Bible. You don't read all of it because there are some readings that are left out. This was crafted by men during a big meeting of Protestant denominations, and they decided on this. There's all sorts of other liturgical calendars. There's a narrative calendar now. There's some other ones out there. I tend to follow the Revised Common Lectionary, which leads those readings for different Sundays and all sorts of things. And you'll see that play out in higher worship, like high churchy, things. And so, did I answer all your question?
You did. No, I just wanted to give folks a background in case they didn't know. Because if you've ever been in one of my churches, I don't use the lectionary. That's not something that I follow historically. I will through the high holy seasons of Advent and Easter sometimes, but not all the time. Because for me, I get in that 3-year loop, and I'm less creative and kind of get stuck in all of the things. And because I'm traditionally a sermon series preacher, that's helpful for me not to be stuck in any kind of loop. But
Well,
I think it needs that explanation to say, if we're going to talk about Christ the King Sunday, why is it? What is it? What does it even matter? Especially in regards to end of the Christian year. Really, at the end of November, we're going to end a whole month early. Like, why are we, and then into Advent, right? So I think that context is important.
well, and this year is even weird because you have Christ the King Sunday on November the 23rd, and then Advent is November 30th.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know for some churches that creates a little bit of confusion, especially when you're trying to figure out when you're going to put up the Christmas trees and all that stuff, when you're going to decorate your sanctuary and all that stuff. I know that's a conversation we've been having. For my church members that are listening to the church today, we are decorating after community faith time on Sunday. I need to get that out there so people know. But I typically run 50-50. I tend to run half and half. I tend to run half sermon series and half lectionary because I value the lectionary. I think it's a great thing. It's a great tool for people. But I also believe it's not the end all be all, and everybody just preach the gospel that you feel on your heart. Don't feel like you have to stay to a set form of readings. If there's something pulling at you, jump on it. It's no big deal. We're Methodists. That's not, the world will not end. As I like to remind my Episcopalian friends, we can change the
your Lutheran friends.
my Episcopalian friends, the world will not end if we change the liturgy. It's okay. So Zach, I'll ask the question again.
Thank you.
When you think of, and I'm going to use Christ the King, I'm not going to use Reign of Christ. It does not sit well with me, and it's just what I've always used to. So I'm going to be churchy there. When you think of Christ the King Sunday, what comes to mind for you?
Yeah. So I don't know that I've ever specifically preached Christ the King Sunday, partly because of where it lands in the calendar, typically right after Thanksgiving, right before. And I use it as generally all of November, I celebrate All Saints and kind of craft a whole series around the past, present, future of the church and how that guides us as people and as a church community, and use that in between sermon just to kind of get a breather and wrap up the end of the year. In kind of looking through this and thinking about what does Christ the King Sunday mean. It's not a not important Sunday for me. In fact, it's kind of, I told Matt before we started recording, it feels like a weird Sunday. And if you look up the history, it's moved around in dates and times over the years and has kind of landed within this week for the last century or so. But it feels like maybe that's the exclamation point on the end of the liturgical year, on the end of the Christian calendar, that we spent this whole year, starting with Advent, waiting in anticipation for the birth of Christ, giving birth to Christ, and then journeying with him and all of the other people we find throughout Scripture, both the Hebrew Bible and the New Testament, wrapping all of that in to get to Christ the King Sunday, put an exclamation point on it, take a deep breath, and start over, right? Do it all again, which feels really, really weird sometimes because we're always building on the Sunday before, the season before, the series before, the year before. Um, but this is the time of year where we get to take that breath, sit in something familiar in the Advent stories and the Christmas stories, and preach the greatest stories that we have, right? Preach the reason why we're here. And I feel like Christ the King Sunday lets us not ramp up fully and then crash back down, but just put a big old period exclamation point on the year and start over. And keep building on those blocks, knowing that at the end of the day, at the end of the year, Christ is still King, right? No matter what we've gone through, here we are. And I think it's a pretty good reminder. Even though I'm still not going to lean into it this coming Sunday, I don't know. It's making me rethink some things, I suppose. But I like it. I've honestly never really dug into it too much because it was just one of those Sundays. Trinity Sunday is kind of another one that's there's way too much to unpack for
Well,
the
Trinity Sunday
Trinity
is
on
fun.
a Sunday. Yeah, it is. I just preached the Trinity in November or at the end of October, so it was great. But yeah, it's just one of those deals that there's a lot to it, and it can be a whole lot of fun if you let it.
You know, I I I like the way that the liturgical calendar ends with Christ the King Sunday.
Mhm.
Um, because it's kind of one of those things that um, it can ground us in a season of chaos. We're in the Hallow Thankmas year season right now, the secular season.
You're using fun big words today.
Yes, lots of them. Um, I had 2 cups of coffee today versus versus 3 and being all over the place. Um, but I love the idea of there being this ending in this season to start the new year, like to start our new year with Advent. And for me, when I think of Christ the King, I think it's a season that helps ground us in the midst of all the chaos that's going on right now. But I also love it because then it helps us when we enter into that first Sunday of Advent, whatever that looks like here. One of the cool things that we do here is I call it the hanging of the green service. We don't do any like the traditional hanging of the green stuff, like
Mhm.
where that stuff is done. That's already all set up. But we use imagery throughout the service to explain the important parts of the space, and so then it prepares us for preparation for that hope to come, that Christ will be born. We know that he will, and that idea that Christ will come again, and the reign of
Mhm.
Christ grounds us not only in the season of chaos, but it grounds us with the opportunity of what comes in that season, like what comes when Christ comes. I don't know, there's something about to me that grounds me. And I don't necessarily preach it every year. This year I am, because it's part of my larger vision board sermon series, and see Christ and all the things is a sermon topic for this week. And so that works well with Christ the King Sunday. Um, but I think in with all that's going on with the rise of Christian nationalism, with the way that we hero worship and all those things, being grounded that Christ is should be at the center of our lives, to me, can help us in the season, help us get centered, help us get grounded in all that's going on in our world around us. I think it's a good reminder, especially
Mhm.
as you have like a ton of Jesuses right behind you. What a great way of doing like a sermon intro video of Christ the King
Right.
Sunday.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of the thing that I think of every year when it comes around of what are the different faces of Jesus that we see. Uh, Partly because that's just an if you can see us if you're watching this podcast. You know my background's a bunch of different depictions of Jesus in a bunch of different ways. And so that's always on my mind of that undertone of where do we see Jesus? How do we see Jesus? What are the different faces and ways that we do that? And not only us personally, but how do we bring that out in a way when we share Jesus with other people, then it doesn't look necessarily like us, but like them, and like everybody can, and everybody has that picture, right? So yeah, I don't know. I think that's I think it's a really interesting Sunday.
It's
Could
a
be
great Sunday to sing "Shine Jesus Shine" and just pound that in,
just pound, shine, Jesus, shine.
because
Possibly.
it's got that driving tempo
It does.
that pounds it into you that Jesus
It
will
does.
shine.
Yeah. No, there's a lot you can do with it, right?
Yeah.
We're doing hanging of the greens. We don't do any of the traditional things, obviously. We just call it hanging of the greens Sunday, and we decorate as much as we can with as many people as we can, and to get ready for the Advent season. So, yeah, I don't know. It's a lot of fun. I think it's one of those fun historical Sundays to dig into when you can, and see
Well,
where it takes you and guides you for the rest of the year, right? Like into the new Christian year, into Advent and all the things.
and as we were looking things up, it's not something we've been doing forever. It's actually fairly like when you think of Christian history,
Hmm.
it's fairly recent. Like it was developed after World War One with the
Hmm.
rise of all the things that were happening in that world. It was created as a sense to remind us that Christ is the King, because the monarchs had fallen. The world seemed like it was going to end because they had this great war, and so this was developed to ground us in the chaos of the world at the time. But I think also for today, I think it's a great response for what's happening in our world today. And I just think I think it's a fun Sunday to unpack, and I hope. Um, I mean, I'm looking forward to it. And I may even robe up this Sunday just because it might be that
Oh,
much fun.
look
Uh,
at you. You rub up
uh,
every Sunday. Don't act like
no, I don't.
something
Not
different for you.
anymore. Only on first Sundays and high holy Sundays. So about to enter a whole season of robing with Advent coming because I love doing it during Advent. I also have some really cool vestments that I like to wear that look better with a robe on than they do with a shirt. Listeners, we want to thank you for listening, and we're gearing up for our season of Advent, and we're looking forward to that. And we invite you along with the journey with us as we talk about that over the next several weeks. And I know you have a lot going on. I hope that maybe you're listening to this as you're driving to be with friends or family or wherever. And we're just thankful for you. And so, listeners, if you want to find out more about us, you can go to beardedtheologians.com to find all of our past shows. We are creeping up on year 10. It's crazy to believe that we're creeping up on year 10, but we're definitely grateful for you. And you can find all of our stuff there. You can pick up some Christmas items or some white elephant gifts. You can find all that on our website. And so, listeners, thank you for listening. I'm Matt Franks.
I'm Zach Bechtold. Thanks for checking us out.
And like this video. And push that thumbs up.
Thank you for listening to the Bearded Theologians podcast. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share on all social media outlets. You can check out old episodes and more information at beardedtheologians.com. Thanks for checking us out.